We've all heard about legendary drug lords like Pablo Escobar and Shorty, and how they squandered millions on the most exotic and luxurious things in the world. Escobar owned an entire private zoo on his Colombian estate, while Shorty had a diamond-encrusted pistol that he carried with him wherever he went, with his initials even appearing on this prized possession. But there are many more people like them. In this video, we talk about Mexico's most wanted man, El Mencho. We tell you about his crazy lifestyle and billionaire status. Before we delve into his glamorous lifestyle, let's take a look at his rise to power. Most Mexican drug lords are in jail or dead, but not arch-nemesis Asagra Carbantes. The 56-year-old ringleader was never captured. In fact, the U.S. government offered a reward of up to $10 million to anyone who provided information leading to his arrest. Tonight, the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration is offering a $10 million reward for information leading to the arrest of Mexican drug lord El Mencho. El Mencho is the leader of Jalisco's new generation drug cartel CJNG. He's been in the sport for at least 20 years and shows no signs of stopping. Its activities have spread far beyond Mexico and several U.S. states. Needless to say, El Mencho has a sizable drug empire, but it didn't happen overnight. In fact, it all started a long time ago. As we all know, most people in this life have been exposed to it when they are young, and the same is true for Carbantes. He dropped out of school after 5th grade when he was hired as a supervisor of an avocado field. But these are no ordinary avocado fields. They belong to the Milenio Cartel. The Milenio Cartel was once one of the most financially powerful cartels in Mexico. The family traded marijuana and hid it in fruit. El Mencho is an active participant, so he has participated in this game since he was a child. Over time, he became a plantation guard and even a human trafficker, but he has bigger dreams than avocados. So he left the fields and moved illegally to Northern California. After arriving in the United States, El Mencho joined a heroin and methamphetamine ring and began building his network. He traveled frequently to Mexico and the United States, often using different pseudonyms such as Roberto Zagato or Miguel Velades. At 19, he was even arrested by San Francisco police for theft of property and carrying a loaded gun. In 1989, he was arrested again in San Francisco for drug trafficking. He was then deported back home, but he returned to America. 3 years later, he was arrested again, this time for drug offenses in California. Mitchell and his brother Abraham were arrested for heroin trafficking. Abraham oversaw the deal while Nemesio oversaw it. Although Mitchell was much younger than his brother, he realized that these men were being framed and even warned his brother about the police wiretapping him. The pair were arrested 3 weeks after the incident. El Mencho claimed no part in the deal, but ultimately had to plead guilty to save his brother from a life sentence. He was sentenced to 5 years in prison and served 3 years at the Greater Springs Correctional Center before being released at age 30 and deported to Mexico. But no one can stop El Mencho's rise. On his return to Mexico, Nemesio reverted to his old habits with the Milenio Cartel. He's now a full member and has made his way to the top. He was originally a member of the assassination squad protecting drug lord Maradona, but was arrested by Mexican authorities in August 2003. Meanwhile, a rivalry game called Rosettes is taking place in the state of Michoacán, forcing the Valencian family into exile in the state of Jalisco. But Mitchell moved to Guadalajara. There, as part of his alliance, he struck a deal with the powerful Sinaloa cartel led by Shorty. Nemesio and his team spent the next few years in charge of the Sinaloa cartel's operations in the states of Colima and Jalisco. In 2009, the leader of the Millennium Drug Cartel, Oscar Nava Valencia, also known as El Lobo, was arrested. Less than a year later, his brother El Tiguera was also arrested. With these defeats, the Milenio Cartel began to fall apart, and Mencho stepped in. But the rest of the inside didn't make things easier, resulting in a civil war. The once great Milenio Cartel has split in two. One side is known as La Resistencia, the Resistance, and the other is Los Matazatas, Zetar Killers, led by Mencho. Two groups compete for territory in Jalisco. In support of their claims, the Zeta Killers launched a propaganda campaign against their rivals, denouncing the resistance for blackmailing civilians, businessmen, and government agencies, and ultimately won the war. Afterward, the band changed its name to CJNG as head of CJNG. El Mencho's organization has grown incredibly rapidly. The organization grew from a small territorial expansion into one of the country's leading criminal organizations, and Mencho himself became a most wanted man. His rise to fame came after his aggressive and unheard of unconventional public violent demonstrations. With the ouster of Mexico's former crime boss, El Mencho's path to the promotion has been cleared. He expanded his activities in Jalisco and surrounding states. CJNG battle other groups in the area and stop at nothing. The group even carried out direct attacks on Mexican special forces, earning El Mencho a reputation as the authorities' arch-enemy of the country. According to sources, El Mencho has overall responsibility for drug trafficking in the states of Jalisco, Colima, and Guanajuato, where he has established entire meth production and trafficking bases. But it didn't end there. Internationally, there are rumors that CJNG has ties to criminal groups in the United States, Latin America, Europe, Asia, and Africa. Currently, the gang is one of the most profitable criminal gangs Mexico has ever seen. According to government estimates, the total assets of El Mencho's organization are approximately $50 million. Not only is that a lot of money, but drug keychains only seem to get better with time. One of the reasons for its success is its ability to turn market and consumer changes to its advantage. For example, CJNG initially produced only meth, but when Mencho realized that consumer demand was changing, he switched to producing heroin. He is also known as a major dealer in fentanyl, which in recent years has overtaken heroin as the deadliest illicit drug in the United States. Another reason for the success of El Mencho's show is his discipline. He didn't do drugs, he didn't drink, and he avoided the mistakes of other leaders. He trains regularly and is always fit. Moreover, he is rarely seen in public and usually lives in remote camps that authorities have difficulty breaking into. In addition, the main actors use extreme violence, such as acid baths, executions, and even cannibalism. Some of these deaths were even made public on social media. CJNG specializes in bribing officials and killing those who cannot be bribed. 3 years ago, Kyle Mori, the leader of the DEA team tasked with finding Element Joe, said he believed the drug lord was worth at least $500 million and possibly more than $1 billion. Despite having so much wealth, he is still subject to drug laws. The lord loves to hide. Unlike Shorty and other historical rulers, Mencho prefers to stay away from the hustle and bustle of a busy city and has more power than money. Even with a multi-billion-dollar company, he doesn't attract much attention when he shows up at an expensive restaurant or drives the streets of Mexico in a Lamborghini. But that doesn't mean he doesn't have everything. Authorities have taken control of some of El Mencho's facilities in recent years, according to Univision. He lost his luxury cabin on the Pacific coast of Mexico, more than 100 Japanese restaurants, shopping malls, newspapers, real estate, a tequila brand he wanted to export to Europe, gold bars, and even a property that owned Bengal tigers and endangered birds, a ranch for exotic animals. Still, El Mencho remains at large. Unsurprisingly, police have made multiple attempts to apprehend the criminal mastermind, but he always manages to escape. CJNG worked really hard to make sure he never got caught. In the past, the group has used no-nonsense, coordinated tactics to avoid his arrest, such as blocking multiple highways and roads by setting vehicles on fire. His men set fire to cars to act as barricades, preventing troops from approaching their leader. In March 2015, a CJNG gunman broke into a federal police convoy, killing 5 officers and 3 civilians. According to reports, the attack was to protect El Mencho, who was at a meeting in the area. Later, Ediberto Acevedo Cardenas, also known as El Gringo, one of Mencho's closest associates, was killed in a shootout with federal police. Following the incident, El Mencho ordered his group to attack the Mexican federal police. Over the next few weeks, CJNG gunmen blocked the streets of San Sebastian de la Cister with burning vehicles and opened fire on a Jalisco State Police convoy, killing 15 officers and 5 others. People died and were injured. That same day, Soho Police Chief Alco de Torres was killed by CJNG killers. A few months later, the Mexican government launched Operation Jalisco, a military-led operation aimed at cracking down on organized crime in the state and capturing its leaders. As soon as the operation began, there were reports that El Mencho was in Tenaya, and security forces shot him down. Several roads were blocked in the small town of Villa Purification in the Guadalajara region. To weaken law enforcement and help El Mencho escape to safety, his men set fire to 39 buses, 11 banks, and 16 gas stations. The fighting spread to 20 different cities and 3 neighboring states. Authorities are not sure where El Mencho is hiding, but they are sure he won't stay in one place for too long. Nemesio Asagra Cavantes' inner circle consists of former mercenaries. Military training and his second circle of security are rumored to be much larger. It is clear that he is surrounded by people who would give their lives for him. El Mencho is the lead defendant in a federal indictment accusing him of directing and continuing criminal activity. He was also charged with conspiring to send large quantities of narcotics to the United States and using a firearm in drug trafficking. He also faces charges of trafficking meth in Mississippi as part of a 2013 federal lawsuit. 2 years ago, reports emerged that the drug lord was suffering from kidney disease, and he built an entire hospital in the village of El Evasua. Earlier this year, rumors that he died of respiratory failure while being treated at a private hospital in Guadalajara were unconfirmed. Please comment below with your thoughts and make sure to like and subscribe to this channel.